Long Island Backstory with Chief Correspondent Gary Jacobs.
Good evening, everybody, and I'm Gary Jacobs. Welcome to another edition of Long Island Backstory, where we're filming at the Alt-T Studios in Hauppauge/Islandia, Long Island, New York. I'm really excited, as you guys are probably going to tell when you see the show, doing this show tonight, because that's one of the things I like to really do. And it's one of the reasons I got involved in Long Island Backstory was to expose rogue, corrupt, asshole, rude, mentally ill judges who need to be removed from the bench. The first judge that I really started this was Judge Marion McNulty, who I'm still not done with. I'm still going after her. If you're watching, Marion, I'm not done with you. I still send letters to her house to remind her that, just so she knows that I'm not done with her. And I hold her responsible for what happened in my case. But luckily, she's no longer on the bench. The judge that we're going to talk about today, he ain't seen nothing yet. I started my campaign, my personal campaign, against Supreme Court Judge John J. Leo in Suffolk County, Long Island. John J. Leo, remember the name, because you're going to hear a lot about him over the next coming months. I actually came to find out, I'd heard a little bit about Judge Leo over the years as president of Americans for Legal Reform, but never really experienced it personally, till I started to advocate for one of our members at Americans for Legal Reform by the name of Ron Winter, who's my guest today. And when I went into court the first time, with a couple court watchers to see Judge Leo and how he dealt with Ron Winter, honestly, I was shocked. I mean, I've seen some bad judges in my time. Judge Cheryl Joseph, Judge LaPresti, call him judge, not really a judge, in Nassau County, Judge Zimmerman, Isabel Boos, what are some other crazy ones? Judge Blydenberg, who luckily passed away, died. I got LaPresti. And really, this guy was right up on the top of the list. So anyway, enough of, I can talk all day about this guy, but I don't want to take up too much time from my guest. But you got the idea. And so in case I forget later, anybody who's watching this show, because many of you were watching it on Cablevision, because we're going to run it several times, but there are also a lot of people who are going to watch it on YouTube and on the other various social media platforms. If you have information about John Leo, Judge Suffolk County Supreme Court Judge Leo, get in contact with me. LongIslandBackstory@gmail.com. LongIslandBackstory@gmail.com. Go to my Facebook page, Long Island Backstory. Send me a message. Only send it to me, though, if you have the balls to come on the show and talk about it. If you want to just bitch about what an asshole the guy is, save it for your friends at the bar. But if you want to come on and do something about it and get involved in protests, making sure this guy doesn't get reelected or possibly getting him removed from the bench with the Judicial Review Board, then reach out to me. So, how was that for an intro, Ron Winter?
Loved it. I'm sitting here shocked. I enjoyed it.
Hey,
Great job.
Ron Winter, welcome to Long Island Backstory, and Ron Winter's first television debut.
Yeah, so excuse the mistakes, but we'll get there.
There is no mistakes on Long Island Backstory because, you know, as we talked about at the beginning, this show is about the way your perception of the way things happened. And I'm saying that, you know, not only for legal things, but, you know, when you're in court and the adrenaline's going, you may see things a certain way and perceive them to be different. So just as sort of a disclaimer, this is the way, my perception of what I saw and your perception of what you saw. Although this guy's an asshole and there's nothing anybody's going to say that's going to tell me that's wrong. So first, let's start off, Ron. How did you find yourself in Judge Leo's court?
Well, I ended up in Judge Leo's court because I was taken to court for contempt charges by my ex-wife for child support. Now, I know everybody's going to immediately say, oh, another deadbeat dad. But no, my son, I have one minor son, and my son lives with me. And my ex-wife was collecting child support, and not arrears. She was collecting, is still collecting child support for a son who lives with me. And she, at the time of filing the case, lived in California. So that kind of kills the whole deadbeat dad thing. I'm the one taking care of our son, putting him through college, feeding him every day. And my ex-wife is now, she took his child support money and calls it her Mercedes fund. So that's how I ended up in court. And you would think you go to court and the judge is going to, you know, do what's in the best interest of the children, but no, this judge he's completely insane. And now, even though my case is somewhat over, He's not. We're not done. Like most people leave, I'm in.
So let me just tell the viewers a little bit of background of what happened, and I could do that not just because I'm host, because I was an advocate for you in court. So what happened was many years ago, Ron went through a divorce. He had his son, of course. You know, he's a nice guy, and he wanted to take care of his son. He has a penis, so he pretty much had no shot at getting custody here in Suffolk County. And his wife ended up getting custody, and he said, you know what, I'm okay with that. I make a good living, and he was going to pay her child support. Well, the judge says in the court hearing something to the effect of, so Mr. Winter, your attorney tells me that you're willing to pay child support no matter where your son lives. And your attorney says, that's correct, Your Honor. And you say, hey, listen, that's fine, I'll pay it wherever. Now, in your mind, because I asked you after, Ron, how could you say this? Your feeling was, well, what I mean was, we're both living in the same town on the south shore of Long Island, and if my son wants to go back and forth and say, okay, I want to stay for a week in my dad's house, I'm not going to run back to court and say, okay, now I want to stop paying child support, because your ex-wife would have to maintain a home for him, and that would be really his primary residence. But you said, look, wherever, I don't want any pressure on him, wherever he wants to go, I'll pay. And that was the perception, that he would go back and forth.
And that the money would go to him.
And that will be used for him,
used
right?
for him properly.
Right, because she still got the house for him, she got his food for him, whatever. Then we fast forward, how many years?
3 years.
So about 3 years later, now evidently maybe she had this plan the whole time, she gets a new paramour, and she decides that it's more important for her to be with her new boyfriend than be with her son. So she picks up, and the son has to move in with you. She picks up and moves to California. Well, one would think that the right thing for the woman to do would be to say, listen, Ron, my ex-husband, who I probably hate his guts, you know, listen, I don't want to pay you child support because I don't want to, but you certainly shouldn't be sending me child support. But no, she continues to collect child support.
And I even offered her that.
So there's a clause in Ron's agreement that says that if there's any change in circumstance, in essence, both parties will agree to try to negotiate a settlement. Ron calls up and says, hey, I want to negotiate or whatever. She says, I'm not interested. Now we fast forward. I don't want to give away too much of the story. Let's go back to the first court appearance. So this is why you're in court. So you're in court because you were ordered to pay a certain amount of child support. Your son now lives with you. He's been with you for a few years. She's not sending him the money. She's not sending you the money. She's taking the money and living the nice life in California with her boyfriend. You paid 90, what percent?
Over 93%.
Over 93% of your obligation you paid to her. Yet she still took you, filed for contempt to put you in, requesting that you be incarcerated because you fell short of about 7% of your obligation, which in dollars was how much?
Was less than $7,000.
Less than $7,000. We're going to get to the reason why you fell behind, even though our viewers watching are saying right now they're screaming at their TV saying this isn't right, that the man's paying for child support when the kid doesn't live with him, even if the agreement said that's not in the interest, as this crap says in the court, in the best interest of the children, which is nothing but further from the truth. Because I don't care what you said, it's certainly not in the best interest of your son for you to send money to his mother who doesn't live with him. So talk about that first court appearance. Well, you and I showed up into court. We had another court watcher there with us, Frank Vetro, who was nice enough to come to court. Tell us about that first experience when Judge Leo came out on the bench. You came up there. Okay, you had just gotten sick. Let's tell the audience what happened to you.
I basically was just recovering from a major surgery where I had cancer, and I had only been out of the hospital for a short period of time and was still suffering with a problem with my left leg where I was actually somewhat paralyzed from the surgery.
And also, if I remember it, I hope I'm not embarrassing you, but you were still you had incontinence
yeah,
issues.
I still had to. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say, hey, I had to still wear diapers.
So you were in court in diapers.
In diapers, freezing cold because I was.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Ron told me when we went into court he was wearing not a winter jacket, but a light jacket. And I said, are you okay? Because you're shaking. And Ron said, no, I'm actually freezing. And he said that was probably a result of the anesthesia because you were out for how many hours? I
was under almost 7 hours.
7 hours of anesthesia. So he was shaking and he was still recovering. So he was wearing his jacket. Of course, you're nervous too. So he gets up to the bench and he's shaking because he's cold. He's wearing diapers. because he's incontinent and he's still recovering from the surgery. And he stands up, and what does the judge say to you?
The judge starts yelling at me, yelling and screaming that I shouldn't be wearing a coat in the court, and yelling that a coat in the court, and I had to take the coat off immediately.
Before you could open your mouth.
Before I could even open my mouth, he starts yelling and carrying on. And we were really only there for a first appearance. That we weren't really. It wasn't even like any. I hadn't even been able to respond to the other attorney's paperwork yet. So we had basically just showed up for the first appearance, and he's yelling and screaming at me, carrying on, and even yelled at you for trying to take notes.
Yeah. In fact, well, I think it was the court officer.
He had the court officer.
There was a big Hispanic court officer in there who I was taking notes, and he came up to myself, and actually Mike Gilligan was there that day too, another advocate and court watcher, and he told us all orders of the judge. There'll be no note taking. This is the United States of America.
An open court.
Forget about no recording. The judge says no note taking in the court. So we started off. We knew this was going to be a problem with this judge. You know, he wanted to cause a problem, and he yelled at you about your coat. Never said, "Is there a reason you're wearing a coat?" Listen, common courtesy would have been to say, "Mr. Winter, are you cold?" And you would have said, "Yes, I'm recovering from anesthesia." And first of all, he didn't even really have to ask because you were shaking visibly.
Yeah.
Because you were cold, and I guess the nervousness on top of that made it cold. But then you got into talking about how you needed an attorney, and the reason that you were tight on cash, and you told the judge that you had cancer. And tell the viewers what happened when you told the judge that you just got over cancer surgery.
He actually said to me, he says, "Well, do you have any proof of that?" And I said, "Well, I have the bills from the hospital with me." He goes, "Well, are they certified?" And I said, "Well, they're not certified. They're bills that I brought with me from the hospital. If you want to see I had cancer." He goes, "Well, how do I know you had cancer? You could have faked them." So I literally lifted up my shirt and showed him all the open scars from my recent surgery.
Because he just had surgery, and the scars were pretty fresh.
Yeah, they were still pretty fresh, and I showed him the scars, and he said, "Well, how do I know that you didn't just fall and get them?"
I think he said, "How do I know that was from cancer?"
Exactly.
And what went through my head was,
could you imagine if he said that to a woman?
If a woman went in there and had her breast, God forbid, had her breast removed and lifted her shirt and said, "I just had breast cancer surgery," and he's, "How do I know that wasn't voluntary?"
Oh, yeah.
I mean, disgusting to say to anybody.
And unnecessary. It was completely unnecessary. This guy is just insane. He needs to be removed from the bench, and we're coming from.
So you finally you asked for.
I said to him, since I'm facing incarceration, number one, I'd like time to respond to her paperwork, and I says, and plus, I feel like I'm entitled to an attorney because why should I have to pay for an attorney? First off, I couldn't afford one because I was out of work for a while with cancer and everything, and I'm like, give me a court-appointed attorney, and he wanted to keep asking me questions that I feel that attorney should have been present while he was asking them, and I kept saying to him, I'm uncomfortable answering your questions because I don't have an attorney present. Assign me an attorney, and he refused, and he carried on and yelled and screamed.
Which didn't follow any of the rules of an attorney, which was evident by the fact that you went in the next time and renewed with a written application for an attorney, and that time he gave it to you because he realized what he was up against, I guess.
And I almost think he did that on purpose to set me up.
Well, that's what I want to get into next. So now you go in the next time, and he's still nasty as can be, not letting you speak.
There was never a time he wasn't.
Never. I don't think the guy. I mean, this could be a piece. Imagine a piece of work this guy is to be married to.
I'm telling you.
I mean, he's a nasty man.
And I hear a lot of things about her too.
Oh, really? This is a guy who had to get picked on as a child. He had to be. He's got some kind of.
Oh, he's got that short man complex for sure.
He's got, whatever it is, he's got some serious mental issues. So now he appoints you a judge, and what do you think? You think it's good, but tell us about the attorney that he appointed for you.
Well, the attorney was a court-appointed attorney, and at the time that he appointed the attorney, they kept the court had made a big deal about the fact that I had no medical records. So I went in prepared with subpoenas to have all my doctors and medical records subpoenaed, and even my doctor subpoenaed to court. And I brought them, I did through the proper process and notified the other attorney. And when the judge appointed me an attorney, I said to the judge, I said, I have these subpoenas that need to be signed. And he's like, well, you have an attorney now, I can't talk to you. So I said to the attorney, I said, look, here's the subpoenas. He said, oh, well, I can't issue them now because she wasn't notified. And I said, well, here's a copy of the notice. She was notified 10 days ago that we were doing it today. She actually even noted it in her paperwork.
Right.
So we turned around and did that, and he said, no, we'll do that later on. We have plenty of time for that. Because it was, how many months was it from the time We were there, I think, in May, and my court date was in September.
But let me ask you this: the attorney. Do you think he appointed you an attorney to make sure that you got justice?
Absolutely not.
I mean, we've had some conversations about this. What do you think about this attorney? Do you think he was selected for a reason?
I actually almost, I almost feel like he put him in there as a guy to say, well, I gave you an attorney, but you're going to jail anyway, and this was all set up from the beginning. Because the whole case was absolutely ridiculous to try to put somebody in jail for only a few $1,000s who really was paying every month, just had to pay a little bit less because he was trying to take care of his son and recovering from cancer. I mean, the whole thing made no sense.
So now we get to the trial. You finally get, you did try to settle the case. And as we, again, telling the audience now, here's a man who paid 93% of his obligation.
Over $90,000.
Over $90,000.
Over $90,000.
Even though their child, was living with him, which he had no complaint again, for 3 years. The reason he falls behind is one of the reasons is that he has cancer. Well, it's a pretty good reason. Another reason is now he's got the obligation of taking care of his son, which he didn't plan on doing. Ron's, not a rich man. He's a working man. He's on disability for a broken neck. So he's allowed to make a little bit, and he was trying to make a little bit of money in the real estate business. So he is a man who was trying to make money. On top of it, because he's on disability, the plan was that his son would get free college tuition. It ended up that when they applied for the college, his son's grades, I think, weren't so good at the beginning.
He didn't do that well in school, and the only way to get him in was as a non-matriculating student.
Which meant you had to pay.
Which meant that everything had to be paid, and him going to college was more important than anything.
Right. I remember you said to me, Gary, I have a choice. I either pay for the college, because we're friends also, and you said, Gary, I have a choice. I either pay for the college or I give it to Nancy Winter, my ex-wife. What do I do?
And at the same token, I still was giving her $1,100 or $1,500.
Well, let's not forget, you never stopped giving her.
I never missed a payment.
Which was out of your disability payment.
She got $1,100 a month.
Which left you not enough money to live. I think it left you a couple $100.
Out of that, we were getting $700 a month and having to survive on.
You and your son.
And my son. And we turned around and I said, look, I got to get my son in college. And ultimately, he ended up, after the first year, he did so great as a non-matriculating student that he was accepted into the engineering program. And even in his first year of engineering, he made the dean's list. Right. So the whole point was the children is what's the count, taking care of the children, putting them
Which is
first.
Supposed to be what the courts say is in the children's best interest. The judge didn't want to hear that was in your son's best interest.
And at no point did the judge say, hey, let's try to settle this. This isn't a lot of money.
He wanted to put you in jail.
He wanted me in jail from the moment I got there, and that was
absolutely. Because listen, all he would have to do is say, listen, was this willful? Because that's what, listen, you can't just go to jail if you can't pay it, supposedly, theoretically. But the idea is whether it's willful or not. Well, how could it be willful? There was never any proof that you had other money that you weren't hiding.
They presented nothing.
And even if we just go back to the basics, what's in the best interest? Your ex-wife lives across the country. How would it be in the best interest to put you in jail? It's not like you can say, well, if we put him in jail, the son will live with the mother. She lives across the country.
Yeah.
So your son was going to end up living with your 90, how old is your dad?
88 years old.
With your 88-year-old father, who's another story because he needs help. You're taking care of him now, too.
Yeah, he ended up just getting hurt really bad, breaking his hip.
Horrible. So who would do this? So I just want to talk about, because a lot of this is Judge Leo, but I don't want to give a free pass to Ron's ex-wife, who at any one point could have stopped this. So I just want to show a picture, if you don't mind, Ron.
Not at all. Show it.
I just want to show a picture. This is Nancy Winter. And do we have a picture here of her paramour?
We can get one, yeah.
Okay, so let's show.
I think we have a picture of them in France during the time she claimed in the court that she was suffering money-wise and needed money to survive.
Let's show this picture. So you're looking at the pictures now of Nancy Winter, and what is her paramour's name?
Rob Mofa.
Rob Mofa.
Mofo.
Mofo.
Mofa. He's the paramour.
I think it's Mofo.
Yeah.
Mofo. That's an apparent.
That's a short guy.
That's appropriate.
Got a short man.
So basically, they're living off of you. How does a man go there and support this woman to go to put you in jail? Like I said, you never stop paying support, even though both of your sons both your son lived with you. Both you
Exactly.
and Nancy's son live with you.
It doesn't make any sense. A real man would never do that. A real man, I know me personally, if I saw that, I would say, hey, look, this is ridiculous. You need to put that money to your kid and not take it. This is wrong. Instead, he supported it, because what they did is the two of them took their houses, put them both in foreclosure, and they took the money that should have been paying for their rent, and they're traveling the world. We have pictures of her in Mexico. We have her on birthday weekends in Las Vegas with all her girlfriends, and Atlantic City. We have her sitting in France drinking wine, all while she's claiming to the court that she can't afford money, that she needs this money and all this craziness instead of taking care of our son.
So she actually takes us to trial. Do you think you got a fair trial?
Not in the least. It never was a complete trial. It was completely incomplete.
So let's talk about, you talk about the incomplete. Talk about why it was incomplete.
Well, number one is when they appointed me the lawyer, the court said specifically on the record, Mr. Winter, here's how the court's going to go. And it's in the transcript. I could show it to anybody. It says what we're going to do is the lawyer's only going to deal with you for the contempt. And what we're going to do is we're first going to have the contempt portion of the trial. Then when the contempt's done, we're going to ask your lawyer to step out of the courtroom, and then you're going to have to proceed as a pro se litigant on your own. And he says, do you understand that? I said, I completely understand that. What ended up happening is he went through the whole case, and at the end, when he finished the contempt part, he went right out of the courtroom without notifying us, come back with his verdict, completely disallowed the pro se portion of the case, which would have showed a lot of the inconsistencies.
Because you were prepared to show all these things.
I had everything set up. I had where my ex-wife was lying in court. I had all the evidence where her lawyer was lying in court. We had everything laid out, and the case, I could easily showed it. And I almost think the judge knew that, and he did that on purpose, because he didn't want to have anything contradicted. Matter of fact, he even helped her at one point. You saw that.
Yep.
She said a statement that technically would have perjured herself, and the judge basically coached her to change the statement.
Basically, he did. He said, "Isn't this what you meant to say?"
Yeah.
And then
you didn't mean this. You meant this. And her lawyer in the background's going, yeah, that's what you meant, and they're shaking her head.
Which I want to get to the part where she's trying to stop you from ever going back to court again for a downward modification. And the judge, this isn't about the judge so much, but it talks about the character of your ex-wife, Nancy V. Winter.
And wait, let's not forget a piece of shit attorney.
Right. Well, I remember when the judge said to your ex-wife on the record, so what you're saying is if Mr. Winter was in a horrible car accident and was paralyzed and was in the hospital,
lost his both arms,
and was in the hospital, that you don't think he should be allowed to come to court and ask the court to make him not pay so much money and not to be incarcerated. And she said, no, I
want him incarcerated.
I think he should.
He said, if I walked out of the courtroom today, lost both my arms, was in a coma, was paralyzed from the neck down, was in the bed on a feeding tube, he said to her, so what you're saying is you don't want me to let him have a downward modification, you want me to put him in jail? And she went, yes, I want him in jail, rather than that. Meanwhile,
now we want to talk about the bad judge again. Now, in the trial, you admitted that you technically owed the money, although you didn't think it was in the interest of justice because of the situation, but you agreed. I had a bad lawyer. I think it should be overturned, but you know what? I made a bad thing, and I agree that I owe this money, this $7,000 some odd dollars. And you said all I'm asking.
It's actually $6,981.
Okay. And all you did was you said, Your Honor, all I'm asking for is till my son graduates and becomes 21. I think you said, right?
About a year.
You said I need about a year to pay it, and then I'll pay it.
Because I was still paying the $1,500 a month.
Right. So you're going to pay the $1,500, and so the arrears, it would take you another year to catch up on the arrears. Again, you're still paying the $1,500.
Yeah, because I still had to put food on the table, take care of him, go to college, take care of his needs was still the priority. And the judge says to me, well, I find you guilty, but I'm only going to give you till April, which is only a few months.
So let's talk, because we only have a few minutes left. So the judge's decision, after hearing all this, was that he sentenced you to 60 days in jail.
Yes.
With a purge, which is, okay, if you don't want to go to jail, then you'll pay the full amount that you owe. In how many days? 60 days?
60 days.
60 days. So here's a man who there was no evidence that he had the money, so he knows he has no ability to pay the money. He sentences you to 60 days, to 60 days in jail. If you don't pay in 60 days, and here's the kicker, he awards the wife legal fees equal to the amount of what the judgment is.
Exactly.
So,
matter of fact, her lawyer asked for $13,000.
Well, she asked for it, but she didn't get it.
Yeah.
But he awarded the wife. So basically, She got the 7, which she would have got anyway because you agreed that you owed it, and now we made you pay the wife's lawyer $7,000 in legal fees. Was it $7,000? Am I saying the number correct? Almost the exact amount of what you owed. You talk about a corrupt judge who's trying to protect his own by feeding the lawyers. There was no reason. I would have said to that lawyer, you know what? You get nothing because you never should have taken this case to trial. You should have signed the agreement that he'll pay you the $7,000. You would have waited a couple more months, and you would have got your damn money. But no, the judge was protecting his own, the other lawyer.
Exactly.
And gave her.
Actually, I think he was smitten on her because he would like Google eye her when he was looking at her. Yeah, he's definitely weird.
Well, he's definitely a weird guy.
But he's going to get to know us because Gary and I are going to spend a lot of time visiting his courtroom.
Well, we are. So we're going to be going to the courtroom. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of work behind the scenes as far as getting ready for his election, trying to with the Judicial Review Board, with other authorities, trying to get him, get him removed from the bench. We'll be doing protests if anybody wants to get involved. As you can see behind us, we have the flyer, the wanted poster, which is asking for information regarding Judge Leo, and we've handed this out already once, but we'll be going several more times to the courthouse.
We only had to give out 15 before he got one.
Yeah, he got one, and he was not happy. He was not happy. That's okay, because he's really not going to be happy. Like I said, this guy ain't seen nothing yet.
Now, most people in our situations, once they're done with the court, they leave. But Gary stayed in and fought, and I'm here, and now we're going to fight, and we're going to team up.
We're going after this guy. We are going after this son of a bitch.
We're going to go after the piece of shit lawyer, and we're going to take care of all of this.
So again, if anybody has information on Judge Leo, either you, somebody else, please email us, LongIslandBackstory@gmail.com. Go to our Facebook page, send us a message, anything. Reach out to us, and
you can even look me up on Facebook
and send information. You can go to Ron Winter. But like I said, we're doing these flyers. I got so many people. Unfortunately, it's hard to have more than one guest on the show at a time. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a series of this. This is my first show in a series, which we created tonight, which is Long Island's top 5 bad lawyers.
Judges.
Sort of just the way.
Judges.
Yeah, that's wrong. I don't know if it's top 5 bad judges. The worst 5.
Yeah.
This is what it is. It is the worst 5 judges on Long Island.
Yes.
And we're starting with
Although there are many more.
There's many more, but we're going to start with this series for the 2019
we're
bad judges.
We're going to eventually expand that list to top 50.
Right. Well, let's do it this way. The 2019.
Maybe there's only 40 judges on Long Island.
2019 worst judges of the year. Number 5. Boom. John J. Leo, Suffolk County, Central Islip. We're going after this guy. So like I said, this is going to be our list of top 5 bad judges on Long Island for 2019. Judge Leo is the first one. Welcome, Judge Leo, to Long Island Backstory's worst judges of the year. You son of a bitch. But guess what? You effed with the wrong person, John Leo. You really did. Ask Marion McNulty. I would say ask Blydenberg, but he's dead, so you can't ask him.
But he's so arrogant, he won't.
He's going to know. Let me tell you.
He's going to know.
McNulty was arrogant too. Made her miserable. Judge Cheryl Joseph, ask her, because she got it coming to her too.
Oh.
I'm Gary Jacobs, and thank you for joining us on Long Island Backstory. If you're watching this online on TV, please go to our YouTube channel, Long Island Backstory. Please click subscribe, click on that little bell thing so you get notified every time we put on a show, and we'll see everybody next week here on Channel 20 on Cablevision.
Gary Jacobs and Long Island Backstory, winner of the Huntington Lodge No. 124's 2018 Community Service Award in recognition of the efforts to offer an alternative access to news stories of interest to all Long Islanders. Long Island Backstory is made possible in part by Americans for Legal Reform, the oldest, most successful legal group in the world. P.O. Box 2679, Huntington Station, New York 11746. Telephone 631-421-6390. Website Americans4legalreform.com.